All right. So I am here and so excited to be here with my dear, dear friend, Tom Almeida, who is in a very magical space in Brazil that I want to click my heels and get to. And I'd like to start by just introducing who he is, other than somebody that I just think so highly of in the world as a human being. But Tom, at this point, has a deep passion for honoring the sacred conversations and the very authentic conversations around death and dying, and reclaiming that process with a great amount of dignity and intention, and has made it his work over the past several years to really create structures, programs, um, events around this, so that speaking of this is normalized. What did I miss, Tom? What can I say that you will inevitably say more eloquently? But I wanted to roll out the red carpet a little bit for you.
Wow, no, that's amazing. I think I couldn't say better than you said, and that's it. That's what moves me nowadays. That's my passion. It is to move the way that we are dying in Brazil, because it is terrible. Uh, there is so much suffering, and I'm creating spaces for people to talk about this huge taboo that we have here, to talk about palliative care that is pretty new in Brazil. Um, and it's beautiful what is happening, because the conversations that we are creating with this movement that is called Infinito, we can really touch the people's soul, to create really intimacy and connection. So it's beautiful what is happening. And I'm really glad that I found this path. I was looking for a path, and I never thought that I would be working and talking about death. And that's what brings life to me nowadays. And
Yeah, it's so interesting how our path finds us. And one of the reasons I've created this community is because it's a rebellious act inherently to choose the most true path rather than the path that we thought we were supposed to take. So I'm curious if you can just tell me, I know a little bit, but speak to your journey of how do I want to say it? Accepting your own flavor of sacred rebellion, and kind of what the journey has been like.
It's too noisy now, right?
It's okay.
No, it's okay.
They're doing construction, so anybody watching,
Yes.
there's no control over the construction. That's just a sweet little Brazilian space.
Yes, thank you. I think I have this soul of a rebellion soul, but I believe it was like kind of sleeping in a quiet space, and then I was always changing, but quietly. I was not like a rebellion that I was fighting or everything, but I was always more kind of free spirit. But I believe when it changed, I was around 35 years old when first I got divorced from my first wife. So that was like the word that I thought that would be mine forever and ever. Now I'm married. Now we are gonna have kids. Now we are gonna have a dog. Now we are gonna have something. E Carlinha, não vou conseguir falar agora. Tô gravando um negócio aqui. Sorry, real life. And now the guy that is, there is this guy that I was waiting a long time to come here. I'm sorry. Yeah. And then when, sorry, I missed. And then when I got divorced, that's when the big change started to happen in my life. I was like, I can have a different life. And at that moment, I was working in the corporate space. Big company, marketing director, big money, everything, car, like the perfect life. And then I was like, the perfect. I was like, I have all of this. I'm where lots of people want to be, but I think I don't belong here anymore. I wasn't unhappy, but then I felt like I can do much more than that. So then that's when I start following my intuition about life. And then I left this corporate work. So then I start really to trust the universe. Like, I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but I'm trusting that it's going to be the right thing. And then I start like searching a really deep work about to understand who I am. Because when I was 35, like, I'm not this guy anymore. Who am I? So then I start searching and to understand who I was. And I think I'm still looking for that because it's like a journey, life journey. But then a lot had changed. So it started like 15 years ago. And I never, and I was okay about like, I don't know where I'm going. I didn't have like, the path was not clear. I just knew that this is not what I want. And I was all the time like, what is true for me now? What is true for me now? I couldn't say like what's gonna be true for me in the future. I don't know. But what is true for me now? So then all the change, all the decisions that I made was like about today, what I believe now. And then I was changing and moving. I think that's like the,
Well, trusting our knowing in a given moment without attaching to like the plan or the identity of who we should be is it takes a lot of courage, and it takes
mhm,
out of the box thinking, because I know and work with so many people who on the outside look like they should be completely content. You know, they've got the
mhm,
job or they've got the relationship or they've got the money, whatever, but there's that other longing that is like it doesn't fit the picture. And one of the things I heard from your journey of rebellion is there was an opening that happened from sort of breaking one identity. And I have this theory that we all come into this world being who we are. We are taught away from that, not through anyone's fault or intention, but we just fall in line because we want to connect. And then the journey of becoming and of sacred rebellion is remembering who the fuck we are, and
yes.
and going, oh, this doesn't fit with this, beautiful corporate identity that I'm so good at. It's even harder when we're
Mhm,
so good at it,
yes.
but this feels really true. And so I'm gonna be brave, and I'm gonna honor that, even when it's scary, even when it compromises my sense of security, even when when I'm met with judgment, all of those things. And it's like when we unhook from one, all this new truth starts flowing in, I find.
Mhm,
Is
mhm,
that
mhm.
kind of how it works
Yeah,
for you?
yeah. I think something that is different. I never felt that I was like courageous. Courageous, that's the first. I
Courageous,
never
yeah.
felt courageous. For me, it was more. And then when I learned about this concept of fearless, I
Yeah.
was like, it is more about being, because I'm really optimist. I
Yeah.
always think it's gonna. I really trust the universe. This is
Yeah.
gonna happen. If it's not, and I believe that I don't have the attachment, so much attachment. So
Yeah.
it's okay that it's not exactly what I'm planning, but it's something that I trust.
Yeah.
So I think that's what moves me about to be really optimist about like, ah, I don't know what's going to be the final result,
Yeah.
but it's going to be good. I
Well,
should trust.
there's a real spiritual aspect to that, I would say. Is there's a sense, as you say, that it's not all on you to figure out the whole plan. You're co-creating on some level with the collective, with the universe, whatever you want to call it. There's a faith in that I'm hearing, which is why
Mhm.
you don't feel like you have to be brave, because that faith is
Yeah.
leading. When the faith isn't
Yes.
there, we feel like we have to be brave because it's all on
Yes.
us to like do
Yes.
the thing. And I
Yeah.
hear you say, I just follow my knowing over and
Mhm,
over and
mhm.
over and over again, even
Yeah.
when it's inconvenient.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I'm a huge dreamer, so I always dream about something, and then I trust,
Yeah.
and then things start happening. And I, of course, not that happen like magic. There's a lot of work, but I trust, and then I make it. I do my part.
Yeah.
I'm available. My energy, my work, my everything. I make it available to make it happen. So it is a co-creation for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think we can hold that sense of possibility for and with each other. That's something you model so well and have since I've known you, of you dreaming for me and me
Mm,
dreaming for you. And that's one of the
yeah,
things, and part of why I believe in community so much, is
totally.
when we have these big ideas for how the world can change, we simply aren't meant to do it alone.
Mhm, mhm,
It's
mhm.
far bigger than one human.
Totally, totally. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
It is not about us. It is about the collective,
Yeah.
and it is about the universe. It is about the passion. It is the dream, and it's all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what has been your biggest challenge to honoring your call? Because usually there's some resistance on that journey. There's some little
Mm-hmm,
something that happens.
mm-hmm. Uh, that's a challenge question. I think the biggest challenge it is the discipline to be like to do the work,
Mm.
to about like to learn more about myself. I'm a
Oh, you
seeker.
mean the work, like the
Their
work.
work, really their
You
work.
can't do the
Yeah,
work without
yeah,
the.
no,
Yes, thank you for
yes,
speaking to that.
yeah. For me, that's the challenge because I believe, I know, but sometimes it is really hard. And then I go to my comfort zone about like, no, I trust this is gonna happen because that's my comfort zone.
Right.
About trust, about be fearless, about being optimist. That's my comfort zone.
Yeah.
It serves me a lot
Yeah.
until it's not serving anymore.
Yeah.
So that's, I think that's the challenge for me. The challenge
Oh.
sometimes be too optimist. It's not helping. I need
Oh,
to do my
that's so
work.
interesting that you say that, because as I hear you say that, I think about how, I mean, my nature is give me the work. I'll do the work. Give me the
Yeah.
grittiest, most uncomfortable alchemy and I'll do it. But when it comes to, oh, of course it's just going to work out. That's my work, right? Like,
Yes.
so it's interesting to have these conversations with people to find out just different perspectives of where our strong points are, so that we can even entertain the idea of, oh, what if I showed up for the work like Megan does, where she just goes, all right, it's like picking up a book, let's
Yeah.
go, let's get after it. And what if I just assumed that
Mhm.
I would have the support I need at every
Mhm.
turn, rather than having to figure it out? So that's
Yes.
really interesting, that reflection. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So my challenge, it is also what I'm really strong. It is also my weakness. It's the
Totally.
same. It is how I deal with this. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes our work is to like sprinkle glitter on a pile of shit. And sometimes our work is to look at that and go, oh, there's a pile of shit here. What do I need to do with that?
I love that. Yes, it's true. I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah.
So we spoke a little bit about your work in the world, but I'm curious, when we're in this sacred rebellion, this term I use, which is heart-centered work in the world, heart-centered disruption, heart-centered challenge of the way things have been. What is the vision that draws you forward? What's the possibility that makes you keep showing up when you have to do the work, when it's not fun?
Mhm. I think now what I do now, it is about really how can I impact others people's life? Because I know the work that I'm doing, it is impacting lots of people. About and the moment of their lives when they are really the most vulnerable, when they are most suffering. So I know that a conversation that we create, um, talk, whatever, this will bring information for them that it will be helpful in that moment that is the most vulnerable moment for them. And as I told you, I'm a big dreamer, and I know the reality of Brazil now about how we die, how we deal with end of life. And then I have this huge dream about like, I want to really change the way that we are dying in Brazil. So it is huge, it is big, but that's what drives me. I want to change that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to see that. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I know that this is already happening. We are changing 1, 2, 3, 10 families, 20 families. We are 200 million people here. So it is huge. But that's what brings me my calling. It is that. And it is uh, kind of funny because like I lived in the US twice. I was like, I never knew where I was going to live. I was like really free spirit. And now I feel that that's my place. I need to be in Brazil. I was like, no, I don't know where I'm gonna live. I can live, I can move. I lived in United States, in Canada. I could live anywhere. Like just take me. And now I have this feeling about that's where I need to be. That's the work that I need to do. It is here. So that's my calling to really be. And when I impact other people, I'm impacting my life also at the same time. So it is beautiful, this work.
Yeah. So you mentioned two things that I feel called to really reflect and highlight. And one is the call is bigger than yourself. And that's the
Mhm,
thing that drives you. Is it,
mhm,
you know, in scenario number one with your corporate culture job, a lot of times that's about climbing the ladder. I need to be in certain positions. A lot of times that's
mhm,
the nature. And this is so much bigger than yourself that the call is so big that that's what keeps you showing up for the discomfort. And the
mhm,
other thing I heard that I feel called to speak to, because it happens with so many people going through this path of claiming their role as a change agent or a paradigm shifter, is you had to go and journey physically. You had to leave home and go explore and have these different experiences that shaped your perception. And then you came home. You know, I'm glad you traveled, by the way, because I wouldn't know you if you hadn't,
yeah.
and that makes me really happy. But
Yes.
you had to. That was part of the journey. So that it's
Mhm,
kind of like you're on this scavenger hunt of self and of
exactly.
experiences, so that you could then be ready to meet the challenge or the invitation that came when you came back home to claim
Mhm,
your what I would refer to as divine purpose, your soul
mhm,
purpose.
mhm, mhm.
It's not.
Yes, 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 for that. And this journey can be like really physical to move to another city or another country, but also it is about like to trust, like I'm gonna do this work, and then I'm gonna do another work, and then I don't know why, and I don't have the compromise of doing this for the rest of my life. But this experience will teach me something. So I was always living by this. This is gonna teach me something. I'm gonna explore this. This is not a lifetime. It is this experience. Maybe I'll stay longer, maybe not. And then you go to this journey, and then suddenly you find, like I really found what I was looking for, and I could never write down
You couldn't
this
have
work.
forced it. You had to
No way.
follow the breadcrumb trails of clues and of experiences, and then it was
Yes,
just there on a platter
yes,
going, this is what
yes.
you do.
Yeah, yeah. And also to look for like this calling, it was about my personal experience. When
Yeah.
my mom died, I was like, oh my God, that's a huge taboo. And then I was like really a refugee of the system, how she was dying. I was like, so that's the whole package. That's how we die. And then I had a cousin that he was dying. He was suffering. He was dealing with cancer. And then I started talking with him about his death.
I remember
And
that. That was
yeah,
sacred
you
time.
know, yes. And then everybody was running from him to have this conversation. And then I started to having this conversation, really powerful conversations. And then I said, that's really powerful. We start talking about legacy, his legacy. you are dying, but what is going to stay here? So that's when it started. So it was my personal journey about my experience. And then I looked to my father and then I said, this is happening here. I'm going to start talking with him about his death. And then it was like a huge shift. So I had 3 personal experience.
Yeah.
So it was a personal experience. It was not about the work. It was not about the project. It was not about anything. But then suddenly there was no way to run from that.
Yeah.
So I didn't choose this.
It chose you, and you were open enough to say yes. And I find that a lot of people feel like their work in the world has to come with some sort of degree or training or something like that for it to be valid. And I'm a fan of all sorts of training. I'm a nerd for growth, but the work that we're meant to do comes from a deep need that we have in some way been touched by, either witnessing it deeply or experiencing it. Often the thing we most want to offer the world is what we most desire, or what has caused us the most pain or suffering, and we want to meet it differently and want others to experience it differently. So I appreciate you speaking to that very personal nature of this kind of work. It can't be headspace work. It has to be heart space work. Otherwise, we will fizzle out because it's not worth it if it's just a headspace thing.
Yeah. And then there was also a moment that I was like, now I need to think. I cannot do anything else. How can I make it happen? How can I live from this? How can I make this a business? How can I make my life for it? So that's when my mind also, we need to bring that. But the first step was totally heart-centered. And then you need to bring your mind, like, what is the strategy? How can I build this? How can I structure this how can I communicate? How can I invite people to have this conversation that they don't want to have the conversation?
Yeah.
Like, I'll invite people to have sincere conversations about life and death, but they don't want to have this conversation. So
and they know they need it, but they don't want it.
Yeah. So how can I be? So that's the strategy. How can I invite people to have this conversation? So that's the mind also. So it is the balance.
But when the mind is in service to the heart, we're pretty good.
Perfect.
When the mind is in charge and kind of like maybe giving the heart like a little backseat row kind of thing, it tends to not work as well. So it's, we can't serve sitting on our couch fantasizing. We need vehicles to move our perspectives, our ideas, our love into the world in very real ways. That's part of it. And that's that masculine and feminine energetic balance that I talk about so often of like, we need to be in the emotions and the feelings and the intuition and all of that. And we need a structure to hold that and deliver that where it matters, whether it's a conversation or a business model. Yeah. So I have one final question. What is the message that wants to come through for everyone who is going to watch this about sacred rebellion? Like, what do you want people to know, or what's the message you want to leave people with today? Just trust whatever comes.
I think it is this, like, first it is to connect to your heart. Do whatever you can to connect to your heart. Try to find what is true for you now. What is true for you now? Because there's no way to know what is true for you in the future. And 2020 is teaching us this. So what is true for you now? And I think there's something about the fears. Get to know your fears. Don't run away from the fears, because there is a lot. Our fears, they teach us a lot. So try to get a better relationship with your fears. Name it. Get to know them. You don't need to take them away, but if you start to get a relationship with the fears, to have a name, it's going to be much easier to follow your heart, to but start to have a good relationship with the fears.
Yeah. Our fears guard what's most precious.
Yes.
Yeah. And when we think about it that way, rather than something we're supposed to run away from, it changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Thank
that's
you,
powerful.
Tom. I absolutely adore you. I love the work you're doing in the world. I'm so grateful for you sharing your perspective and wisdom with this community so that people can hear what it's really like to choose this path, because
Mm-hmm.
it's not the mainstream path. So
No,
thank you.
thank you so much. It was like amazing to have this conversation with you. I'm sorry about all the noises about the real life happening here. I'm sorry. But it was lovely. Thank you so much. And congratulations for this work that you're doing. I knew and I can see like so many things that you are creating. It's just beautiful to be like to just to observe what you're creating. It's really, really beautiful.
Thank you. Well, I can't preach about honoring your calling if I'm not stumbling through my own. So thank you for that beautiful.
Thank you.